Okay, let us continue with the exercises from your Allen material. Today I am hoping to finish this chapter. So tomorrow we can start EMI if it gets completed today. Fine, right? So I'll be solving few selected problems. Okay, now let us start with this. I think we have completed 39th problem, correct? Now 40th one, two identically charged particles A and B initially at rest are accelerated by a common potential difference V, capital V. They enter into a uniform transverse magnetic field B and describe a circular path of radii R1 and R2 respectively. Then their mass ratio is, okay, see here, the question is two identically charged particles. Okay, that means we have two particles, the charges on them are same, right? That is, they are of same nature and same magnitude. They did not say that the masses are same, right? So the charges on them, right, they are same on magnitude and the nature, that is, both of them can be either positive or negative, right? So you are supposed to find out the ratio of their mass. Okay, let us see how to solve 40th question, right? Okay, so 40th question, they are saying we have two identically charged particles. Okay, say A and B. Now this is A and this is B. Now it is accelerated through a potential difference V. Okay, say this is the potential difference V, right? Now after that, say the charged particles will come here. Now for example, you can assume that this is at a positive potential and this is at a this is at a higher potential, okay, and this is at a lower potential, that is left hand is at a higher potential, let us say. Now here you have low potential. Now assume both these particles are positively charged particles. Okay, so they go from left to right, let us say. Fine. Now charged particle A, when it comes here, say its velocity is VA. Okay, now the charged particle, when it comes, charged particle B, right, when it comes here, its velocity will be VB, let us say. Okay, now do you think VA and VB are same? No, because we don't know what are the masses, right? So masses are different, so you are supposed to find out the ratio, right? So here MA is not equal to MB. Okay, so keep this thing in mind. Fine. All right, now these two particles, they enter in a region of uniform magnetic field. Okay, so this is the region of uniform magnetic field B, let us say. Okay, now if I say V cross B, so let me take B this way, so I can apply the right hand rule. All right, so B is actually towards you. Then when particle A comes here, right, so it will take up a curved path this way. Now the radius of curvature, let us call it as R1. They have given explicitly, yeah, A, the radius of curvature is R1, for B it is R2. Okay, so let us take R1 and R2 only, right? Let us not mess up. Right? Now the radius of curvature of B, right? So say it is R2. Okay, right. So yeah, so radius of curvature of particle A is R1. Okay, so this is R1. Now radius of curvature of particle B, it is R2. Okay, let us take it as R2. Arbitrarily I have taken, I don't know which is more and which is less. Okay, now let us solve. Right? Now what is the clue here? Since both the charges are accelerated through the same potential difference, the kinetic energy, what they gain, right? So kinetic energy, you can say the kinetic energy, initially they are at rest, am I right? Correct. So yeah, initially they are at rest, so kinetic energy gained, okay, so that will be equal to QV. Okay, so you can call it as QV. Fine. So since both of them are having the same charge, correct, since both of them are having the same charge, the kinetic energy gained by both of them will be equal, correct? So you can say this kinetic energy gained is equal for both of them, equal for both the charges. Remember, velocities may be different, but kinetic energy is same because charge is same. The accelerating potential difference is also same, right? So equal for both the charges. So you can say half MA VA square. You can write half MA VA square will be equal to half MB VB square, right? So half and half you can cancel. Right? Now from this radius, what can we write? So r1 I can write it as m, r1 is for particle A, right? So ma va divided by qb. Okay, so let us say both the charged particles are having the charge as q. Okay, now r2 I can write it as mb vb divided by qb. Correct? Fine. So remember this. Yeah, now I have, by equating the kinetic energies, I have got ma va square, that is equal to mb vb square. Correct? Now I have to get ma by mb, right? So ma by mb, so I got it as v b square divided by va square. Now what is vb? For vb I can substitute qb r2 by mb. Correct? qb r2 by mb, qb r2 divided by mb, the whole square. Now va, so for va I can substitute qb r1 divided by ma, right? So this would be qb r1 divided by ma, the whole square. You got the answer, that's all. So you can say, yeah, this is equal to ma by mb. I've written it again. See, here I have written ma by mb. The same thing I'm writing here. Okay, so finally I have q square b square r2 square divided by mb square by q square b square r1 square divided by ma square, that will be equal to ma by mb. Now q square b square will get cancelled. Now you can see that we have r2 square divided by r1 square into ma square by mb square, that is equal to ma by mb. So mb, you can, one mb will get cancelled. Now you can say ma by mb, that was equal to r1 square divided by r2 square. So this is the result. So option A. Okay, option 1 will get. Okay, right. Now let us go to the next problem. Yeah, 41st you do, then 42nd. Yeah, if an electron enters a magnetic field with its velocity pointing in the same direction as that of the magnetic field. So what do we know? Force experienced by the electron will be 0, because the angle between v and b, okay, if it is 0, force experience will be 0. So its velocity, there is no force acting, means its velocity will not change, right? So when force acts, its magnitude of velocity will not change, that is speed will not change. If force is not acting, if force acts, speed remains constant, direction of velocity will change, right? If force is not acting, then magnitude of velocity will not change, and direction of velocity also will not change, right? So option is fourth one, the velocity of the electron will remain unchanged. Okay, right. Now 43rd. Yeah, so this is interesting. See here, a charge having charge to mass ratio equal to 10 power 8 coulomb per kg and with velocity 3 into 10 power 5 meter per second enters a uniform magnetic field B of 0.3 Tesla at an angle 30 degree with the direction of the field, right? Now we know what happens in this case. If it is exactly perpendicular, correct? If it is exactly perpendicular to the, that is if V is perpendicular to B, it will take up a circular path. If it is making some angle, right? If it is making some angle, it will take a helical path, right? Now the radius of curvature they are asking, right? So in the that is when it takes a helical motion, when it is undergoing helical motion, you need to find out what is its radius of curvature. Okay, so what do we know here? So this is x-axis and y-axis, let us say, and this is z-axis. Fine. Now magnetic field B is this way, correct? Now you are shooting the particle with some velocity, so that the angle made here is 30 degrees, right? Now we can resolve this velocity into two components, correct? Now we can resolve it into yeah, we can resolve it into V perpendicular and V parallel, right? Now you know, because of this V parallel, so it keeps going in the direction of B, and because of this V perpendicular, it will execute circular motion. Now a combination of uniform, that is forward motion, and uniform circular motion, right? If you consider both of them together, so the particle will take a helical path, is it not? So it will start taking up a helical path like this, right? Now you have to find what they're asking basically is the radius of helix. Okay, fine. So for that, because of this V perpendicular, the particle is taking it is trying to make a uniform circular motion, right? Now let us focus only on V perpendicular. Now you will get radius of the helix, right? So radius of the helix, so say this is that radius of helix. Yeah, so say this is the radius of helix R, alright? So the same R will calculate it by mv perpendicular, right? So mv divided by qb we used to write, correct, all the time, correct? Now v perpendicular, you can get it as, yeah, so this is, yeah, sine 30 will get, correct? Yeah, so if you resolve, v parallel will be v cos 30 and v perpendicular will be v sin 30, otherwise v cos 60, that is also fine, right? So you can write R is equal to mv perpendicular divided by qb. Now let us put in the values. So you have b as 0.3, velocity is 3 into 10 power 5, okay, right? Q by m, right? So q by m is 10 power 8 in the denominator, velocity is 3 into 10 power 5. Yeah, 10 power 8, I am substituting for q by m, right? 10 power 8, then b is 0.3 Tesla, 0.3 Tesla, okay, then yeah, velocity they have given as, okay, so velocity is 3 into 10 power 5, okay, 3 into 10 power 5. Now that is v, right? So therefore v sin theta will be 3 into 10 power 5 into sine 30, that is 3 into 10 power 5 into 1 by 2, correct? So this would be 1.5 into 10 power 5, correct? So directly I'll write here, this is 1.5 into 10 power 5, okay, right? So if you see 5 times, okay, now you have 5 into 10 power minus 3, okay, so 5 into 10, 1.5 into 10 power 5, okay. Yeah, the answer is 5 millimeter, otherwise 0.5 centimeter. Okay, I thought it was 5 centimeter, it's actually 0.5 centimeter. So option 2 is right. So 43 is option 2. Okay, yeah, 43 is option 2, right? Right. Okay, now when the charged particle enters in a uniform magnetic field, its kinetic energy, you see, magnitude of velocity may change, direction of velocity may change, but the magnitude of the velocity remains constant, speed remains constant. If speed remains constant, so naturally kinetic energy remains constant, right? So it remains constant. So 44 is 1, okay, right. Right. Now 2 particles, I think this is same as 40th question, try doing it, okay, right. Now 46th, an electron having mass m and kinetic energy E enters in uniform magnetic field B perpendicularly, then its frequency of uniform circular motion will be. So this is a standard result. I think you can derive it, fine. So 47th also you do, it's easy. They have given ion A of mass number 24. So take it as 24 times the mass of the nucleon, alright, fine. So next one is one more ion. They have given mass number as 22, so 22 times the mass of nucleon, and charge is 2 times the electronic charge, right? Now the ratio of radii of the paths. So similar to what we have to use these relations, R is equal to mv by qb, correct? Try to do, right? Okay, now a charged particle is moving in direction of magnetic field. The magnetic force acting on the particle 0, correct? Now 49th. An electron of kinetic energy revolving on circular path in magnetic field, then the radius of its circular path is, okay. Now you have to modify this equation slightly. For 49th one, you have this R is equal to mv divided by qb, right? Okay, so you just have to multiply and divide by v by 2, okay. So we have we have seen this R, right? So in terms of kinetic energy, now try doing it, you'll understand, right? Okay, now otherwise let me try. Yes, the problem goes like this. So they are given kinetic energy as 7.2 into 10 power minus 18 joules, and B is 9 into 10 power minus 5 Weber per meter square. Otherwise, magnetic flux density also means simply magnetic field, right? So that is Tesla, right? So Tesla, yeah. So here we can write R is equal to mv by qv. Now you can try getting this kinetic energy directly here. So for that, I have to multiply by v by 2 and divide by v by 2. Otherwise, you can say multiply by 2 by v. Right? See here, we'll get mv square by 2 kinetic energy. Okay. Then you have 2 divided by qbv, right? So we are speaking about mass, that is kinetic energy of an electron they have given, right? So mass of electron we know, but here velocity of the electron we don't know, right? Okay, so therefore to keep things simple, what you can do is first equate this to half mv square, correct? So half mv square is equal to, so substitute 7.2 into 10 power minus 18, right? Mass of electron we know. Now get an expression for v, okay? So get an expression for v here, or you can write v is equal to something, okay? So just put that v here, okay? So put that v here and you can try finding. So mass of electron is known, right? So otherwise, yeah. Fine, so you can also write it as, see, half mv into v, okay? So mv, right? So again, you need to get this value of velocity, right? So just put it here and everything is known. Mass of electron is known, charge of electron is known, and b is also known, correct? So then you can find out r, alright? Please try it. Okay, now let us go to the next one. Yeah, proton, deuteron, and 50th one, right? Okay, so an electron moves with velocity v in uniform transverse magnetic field B on circular path r. Then its E by m is, okay, so this is easy. I think you just have to put it in this expression. So r is equal to mv divided by qb will, right? So eb, right? So E by m, what do we get? So E by m will be equal to br divided by v. Now this is right. What is equal to, no, sorry. Yeah, so m by e, it's m by e is equal to br divided by v. So E by m will be equal to v divided by br. Okay, so this is what we get. Yes, the next question, 51. Proton, deuteron, and an alpha particle are accelerated by same potential, enter in uniform magnetic field perpendicularly, ratio of radii of circular path respectively. Okay, now I'll give you some clue. We'll try it. Right, so here, what are they speaking about? There you have proton, deuteron, and alpha particle. Right, now proton, right? I'll write the charge. Charge is E, mass is mp, we say. Okay, mass of proton, let us say. Okay. Otherwise take its mass as simply m. Okay, now you have deuteron. Okay, so deuteron, you know, it is the nuclei of deuterium will write, correct? Okay, so it has a proton and a neutron, correct? So its charge is E, mass is 2m. Okay, so charge and mass. Okay, charge and mass. So this is what we get. Now for alpha particle, you know, so it has charge which is 2e and mass which is 4m. Okay, now r is equal to, what is that? R is equal to mv divided by qb. Okay, now if you take proton, substitute e. If you take deuteron, substitute e. If you take alpha particle, put this. Okay, so for mass you have m for electron, 2m for deuteron, and 4m for alpha particle. Okay, so substitute that and see, just try to get the ratios. All right, fine. So let us go to the next one. Yeah, right. A charged particle moves through a magnetic field in a direction perpendicular to it. Okay, same old story. Fine. Yeah, 53rd. A magnetic field always exerts a force on a charge, never exerts a force on a charged particle. Exert a force if the charged particle is moving across the magnetic field line, correct? Exerts a force if the charged particle is moving along the magnetic field line. Okay, so which is true? Always exerts, not true. Never exerts, not true, right? Exerts the force if the charged particle is moving across the magnetic field line. Correct? Across means like it can be going through perpendicular, that is, it can be going in a direction perpendicular. But look at fourth option, exerts a force if the charged particle is moving along the magnetic field line. So when V and B are perpendicular, in that case you don't get to see any force. Correct? Right. So exerts a force if the charged particle is moving along the magnetic field line. So 1, 2 and 4 are wrong. Okay, only 3 is right. So 53 option 3 is right. Okay, fine. Okay, 54th I think you can do right now. So coming to 57, see, this is important. Cyclotron is used to accelerate electrons, neutrons, positive ions, negative ions. Okay, it is used to accelerate, it cannot be used to accelerate neutrons, right? Okay, so it cannot be used to accelerate neutrons. It will be mostly used to accelerate positive ions. Okay, so negative ions, right? So negative ions, as you know, so they'll be having mass very its mass, if you take in terms of mass, right? So negative ions and electrons, correct? So they'll be having mass very less. Okay, now here we have when the electrons are accelerated, right? Suppose you are accelerating electrons and negative ions in a cyclotron. Okay, so there we have to consider something called as the relativity. Okay, so we'll say theory of, that is, relativity. This moving mass concept will come into play, right? Though this moving mass concept, and right, m is equal to m naught times m naught divided by 1 minus v square by c square. Correct? So mass will keep increasing, and what happens is we have to consider relativistic mechanics. Okay, or you can say special theory of relativity. Okay, this can be explained in considering the quantum quantum physics concepts. Okay, special theory of relativity. Now what happens is, because since the electrons are accelerated to such a high velocities, okay, so velocity keeps increasing, and consequently from this relation you can see that its mass will also change, right? Its mass will actually increase. Correct? Its mass will actually increase, and therefore somewhere in the journey, okay, so I am asking you to assume that you are accelerating an electron, okay, in a cyclotron, or negative ions also, fine, because the mass of negative ions and electrons, they'll be much less compared to the positive ions, right? Positive ions, right? So what happens there is, somewhere in the journey, that is, this electron, right, this electron, it will come out of that what is that, frequency. Okay, see, if you consider protons, right, if you consider positive ions, or yes, simply you say positive ions, right? So whatever be their velocity, okay, so this is the path taken by the charged particle in the cyclotron. Correct? Fine. So somewhere along the journey, this electrons, we have to consider the special theory of relativity, and I'm just explaining it in a very simple way, right? So it will move out, that is, it will come out of its natural frequency, that is, the natural frequency, right? So what is that? F is equal to QB divided by 2 pi m, right? So keeping this concept in mind, so we got to know that this frequency is independent of the velocity, right? So we'll exploit this property of the motion of a charged particle in a magnetic field, and we will make use of this in cyclotron, that is, by considering 2 Ds, right? And we will connect these Ds to alternator, that is oscillator, we'll say. Okay, oscillator, right? Now since the mass of the electron changes somewhere in the journey, right, so it will step out of this, that is, its frequency will change. Okay, if its frequency changes, right, so we won't be able to accelerate it to the desired value. Okay, so somewhere, so its velocity, it may change, right? So its velocity, instead of increasing, it may decrease sometime, it may increase sometime, so it will be out of this synchronization. The frequency of the revolution of electron will not be matching with the frequency of the oscillator. Okay, so you can just explain that. Okay, it won't match. Okay, so that is why electrons will avoid using it in cyclotrons. All right, fine. So that is the explanation. Okay, let's see problems based on force on a current carrying conductor. Okay, now let us do a quick recap. Now force, it will be given, force on a current carrying conductor, it will be given by IL cross B. Okay, so IL cross B, right? Now what is this? Yeah, as I keep telling you, so this IL, right? So we'll say it is the length of the conductor. Okay, it is the length of the conductor for which the direction of I remains constant. Okay, the direction of I remains constant or will not change. Fine. So remember this. Okay, now need to remember that. Fine. The direction of IL, it will be in the direction of the current. That is all. Fine. Right. Now here one more thing what you need to remember is, see, you have a wire, so which is actually this way. Okay, so which is actually like this, and say current is flowing through it, which is I, right? Now it is kept in a transverse magnetic field. That is, the direction of current is always perpendicular to the magnetic field, right? Now in that case, how will you find out the force acting on this complete wire? So whose ends are A, B, means it's easy. So what we did was, we'll break it into small elements dl. Okay, and finally when you get the result, right, so we'll find that the force acting on this section, okay, the force acting on this wire AB is same as considering a wire, or you can say a straight conductor from A to B. Okay, so there is no straight conductor, there is no actual conductor from straight conductor from A to B, right? Now you have to imagine that there is a straight conductor from A to B. Okay, and you have to imagine, you have to assume that the current I is going through it now. Sorry, the same current I is going through it. Okay, same current I is going through it. Fine. Now if you can find out its length, right, so if you can find out its length, so obviously you will get, you can use this formula, that is IL cross B, correct? So that is IL cross B. Now if you carefully observe this L, right, so this L, that is nothing but the vector sum of all the dls, that is all. Okay, so that is the vector sum of all dl, so that is, it will go from 1 to n. Okay, fine. Right, so let us proceed, keeping this knowledge. Okay, and apart from that, you know, when you have two current carrying conductors, right, so which are carrying current, that is parallel, both of them are parallel, and current through one of them is I1 and the other one is I2. Okay, now the separation between them is D, right? Now if you have like currents, right, so if you have like currents, the conductors will attract each other. If you have, that is parallel currents, right, so parallel currents, you will see attraction, the conductors will attract, right? Now anti-parallel currents, then they will repel. Okay, so like this, so I1 is this way and I2 is this way, that means they will repel. Currents are anti-parallel. Currents are anti-parallel. Okay, now say the separation is D, and now the force of attraction or repulsion depending on the nature of the current per unit length, correct? So that will be given as mu naught I1 I2 divided by 2 pi d. Okay, mu naught I1 I2 divided by 2 pi d, right? So force per unit length, sorry, this, let us take it as capital F divided by L. Now that will take it as F, right? So this will call it as force per unit length on the conductor. Yeah, force per unit length. Okay, so if you remember this, then you can solve the next set of problems. Alright, now let us see 6 few problems, and the remaining I will let it to you. Fine. Now 61, a wire PQ carries a current I is placed perpendicular along wire XY carrying current I. The direction of force on PQ will be, okay, the direction of force on PQ you need to find out. Okay, fine. So here what happens is, let me make a copy of this. So 61st question. Yeah, so here you need to find out the magnetic field first, right? The magnetic field linking with this conductor PQ, right? Now if you observe, the magnetic field will be due to the current flowing in XY. Is it not? Current flowing in XY, it will give rise to magnetic field like this. It will give rise to magnetic field like this. Now imagine, right? Now if you use your right hand, right? If you use your right hand rule, you will find that the magnetic field due to the current flowing in the section XY, that is capital I, okay? So capital I, the magnetic field linking with PQ, right? So there will be, if you use your right hand, they will be into the plane of the paper, okay? Fine. So use your right hand like this, okay? The direction must be represented by your thumb, right? So the magnetic field throughout, they may change in magnitude, but the direction is this way, okay? The direction of magnetic field B is this way, okay? Now you have IL, right? The vector IL, the direction of the vector IL, it is like this, correct? The direction of vector IL is this way, then B is into the plane of the paper. Now if you do IL cross B, right? If you do IL cross B, you will see that the force on the conductor is acting vertically downwards, okay? So the answer is downwards, okay? Now 62, see 62, this principle will come in play, okay? So this idea, yeah, this one, all right? Now let us see what is 62. A current carrying wire AC is placed in uniform transverse magnetic field. Then the force on the wire AC, okay? Now you have to calculate the total force on the wire AC, okay? Now what we will do, so we will consider the vector sum of all this dl, okay? So that is IDL, sorry, IDL, all right? So what we'll get is, so this is 62nd problem. Right, so here we have three current elements, right? So IL1, let us say, IL1 is because of this 3 ampere, IL2 is because of this, what is that? Section AC, right? Now let us mark two more points here, A, X, Y, okay? So section AX, it is one current element, you can take. Now XY is another current element, YC is also another current element, right? Now if you want to get the net force, right? So as I told you, consider a conductor which is starting at A, okay? Now you have to imagine a conductor which is starting at A and it is ending at C, all right? Now get its length, that's all. So what will be its length? So using trigonometry or Pythagoras theorem, right? So you can easily find that its length is actually 10 centimeter, correct? It is actually 10 centimeter. So it feels like the current I is flowing through this section 10 centimeter. It is not present, all right? But the net force on this section AC, correct? So which is made of 3 segments, it can be found this way, right? So F, we can write it as IL cross B. Now that's all. So B is into the plane of the paper, into the plane of your screen. So that is 10 Tesla they have given, okay? So I is 3, then length is 10 centimeter, correct? So you have 0.1, okay? Then B is 10 Tesla, okay? So we have the force as 3 Newton, okay? So 3 Newton. So what will be the direction of the force? So if you do IL cross B, the direction of the force will be this way, okay? This will be the direction of the force, fine? So its magnitude is 3 Newton. Its magnitude is 3 Newton. So we got the answer as 62 as option A, option 1, okay? So 62 is option 1, it's right, correct? Okay. Fine. So 63rd one, force exists on a current carrying wire which is placed in external magnetic field due to free electrons in the wire, free positive ions in the wire, 1 and 2 both, none, okay? So when you speak about wire, metallic wire, correct? So which are the charges that are in motion all the time? Do you think positive ions will move? No. Free electrons are the ones which are moving. they will experience force when you keep it in an external magnetic field, but these electrons, they are not free to leave the conductor. Okay, they are free to move inside the conductor, but they are not free to leave the conductor. Okay, so therefore it is only due to the free electrons in the wire. Okay, so 63rd, it is option 1. Okay, 63rd also it is option 1. Fine. Right, now yeah, based on this same diagram here, see, based on a 60-second problem, try to do 64th one. Okay, see here they have given QR, right? So QR is 4 centimeter and SR is 6 centimeter. Okay, SR is 6 centimeter. Now yeah, so okay, so not the same values again. Fine. So here you need to consider, I'll give you a clue, try to do. So 64th one, right? Yeah, 64th one, you can do this way. Now imagine a conductor from T to P. Okay, so from T to P there is a conductor, you need to imagine, that's all. Now get its length by using some trigonometry, geometry, Pythagoras theorem, whatever you like. Okay, so that is its length. Now simply do IL cross B. Okay, so that's all. So you'll get the answer. Okay, fine. Right, now the next is left to you. You try to do, it's easy. Fine, see 60. '68 and 69. Now let us try to understand this. When alternating current passes through a spring, then it contracts, expands, oscillates, unchanged. Okay, now 69 also will cover at the same time. When direct current passed through a spring, then it contracts, expands, vibrate. Okay, now this is easy. It's based on force acting between current carrying conductors. Okay, now what is the problem number 68 and 69, right? Yes, problem 68 and 69. Now we have a spring this way. Okay, now if you observe closely on this section, right, and you are passing current. Now let us consider DC current and AC current, right? Now DC means the direction of the current will remain constant. Okay, magnitude will remain constant and the direction will also remain constant. Fine. So let us take it that way. Now if you observe two sections, okay, if you observe two sections, now take these two sections. Okay, so this is one section and this is the other section. Okay, now you can choose the length whatever you want, but I have say some length L. Okay, some small length DL, delta L. Okay, now the same length delta L, let us say. Okay, now the same length delta L, let us take here. Okay, now I'll draw them separately here. Okay, so you have delta L, you have delta L this way and you have delta L this way. Okay, now say I'm passing current like this. Okay, I'm passing current like this, I. Okay, so the I goes this way, correct? I think you can imagine it's at least if you hold a spring, right? If you hold a spring and see that these two colors, that is the yellow color and the pink color, are the colors which you are able to see in the neighboring windings. Okay, so these two represent a small section in the small section of the neighboring windings. Okay, consecutive windings. Fine. So in that case, the current flowing through both of them, see, it will be like this. So you can take, if the current goes like this in yellow, then the same current goes like this. It takes a spiral path, and in delta L also it goes the same way, correct? So I is this way in delta, that is in yellow section, and I is in the same direction in the pink section also. So just to differentiate, I have taken two different colors. Okay, now what do you see? The current are parallel, right? So if you consider two small sections, right, so there will be almost these two currents are parallel. So therefore the windings, right, so these two, they will start attracting each other, right? So you will see attraction. Okay, so because you see attraction, so this attraction will be valid between any two successive windings, correct? Any two neighboring windings, right? So therefore the spring will, this is the case in case of DC, direct current magnitude and direction is not changing. Okay, fine, right? So here the spring, it will actually contract. Okay, the spring will contract, right? So 69th one, let us see 69th one first. Okay, so 69th one is Option 1, right? So it contracts, okay, it contracts. Now can you guess what happens if I pass AC current? It's easy. Now what happens is, as I told you, in India, this is what the AC current looks like. So for every 0.01 second, okay, for every 0.01 second, you see there is a change in direction, okay, so there is a change in direction, right? So what happens is, for 0.01 second, the current will be this way, correct? Now after 0.01 second, again the direction of the current, it will be this way, okay, that is I like this, okay. Now the same sections I am taking again, right? Now again after 0.01 second, again after 0.01 second, so what you will notice is that the current will switch back its direction again. So this is the direction of the current now, right? So what do you see here? In this case, attraction. Now here you will see repulsion between the windings. Again you will see attraction between the windings, correct? Oh sorry, here not repulsion, right? Same direction. So still it attracts only. Direction, right? Direction is same. Direction in both the windings is same, right? So attraction, here also it is attraction, here also it is attraction, okay? So what we'll observe is that the direction remains the same, correct? That is in the successive windings, fine. Now what about the magnitude here? See, magnitude of alternating current, it varies, right? So what it tells you is that, see, this is the maximum value of the alternating current in one direction. Now this is the maximum value of the alternating current in the other direction, all right? So what happens here is, yeah, so every 0.01 second, correct? So once in 0.01 second, you will notice that the current will become 0. See, at these points, the current will become 0. It keeps on repeating, okay, it keeps on repeating like this. Now every 0.01 second, the current will become 0, all right? So what we will notice is that the nature of force is attraction, where it is independent of the direction of the current, okay, what is going through the spring. But if you observe magnitude, right, so magnitude, it will become 0, and you will see maximum magnitude, correct? Every 0.01 second, you will see maximum magnitude, and every 0.01 second, you will also see the current goes to 0, right? So therefore, since the magnitude of the current changes, right, now you know that force per unit length, we wrote it as mu naught I1 I2 divided by 2 pi d, right? Now d is the distance between the windings here. I1 and I2, they are actually same, so here you will get it as I into I, which is I square will get, okay, but whatever it is, you will notice that the force will increase, correct? The force will increase when the current is more. Now the force will become 0 when the current reaches 0, every 0.01 second, okay? So therefore, you have force which is becoming 0, increase like that, okay? So therefore, it will oscillate, okay? So this windings, right, so they will attract, and again, so because because of the nature of the spring, so once these forces, once the current passing through it becomes 0 at a very short time, that is every 0.01 second, the spring will try to come back to its original position, okay, because of its mechanical properties, right, because of its molecular arrangement. We have studied, right, chapter number that is in your 11th standard, mechanical properties of solids, right? Shear stress, shear strain, okay? So that is valid in your spring, right? Now therefore it keeps oscillating, okay? Fine. So the answer for 68, right? So 68, it will be oscillates, okay? It oscillates, right? So 68, the option is 3, okay? 68, the option is 3, fine? Okay. Now the next topic is current loop and moving coil galvanometer. Now this is easy. You need to understand how to convert a galvanometer to voltmeter and ammeter. Please recall on that. And here mostly we'll be using the torque, right? So the torque will be given by M cross B. We have seen this numerous times, right? And yeah. Now one more thing is potential energy, right? Now potential energy of a dipole, okay? So that will be given as minus M dot B. Remember this. Please refer back your notes, okay? Right, now based on this you need to solve here, right? And also that is atomic magnetism at the atomic level, right? Okay, now bar magnet we have seen, and Earth's magnetic field. Now try solving this. Okay, so it is taking a lot of time. Yeah, so coming to magnetic properties again, so refer back your notes. Here I wanted you to focus on these questions, that is paramagnetism and diamagnetism, the cause, right? Fine. So let us look at question number 101. The magnetic moment of paramagnetic materials is infinity, zero, constant but low, none of the above. See, when they are speaking about magnetic moment of paramagnetic materials, okay, so here you need to assume they are not kept in external magnetic field. Fine, right? So in that case, each atom, it possesses net magnetic moment, but in the absence of external magnetic field, right? So the net magnetic moment will be zero. Okay, now here 102nd question, 102, the cause of paramagnetism is, okay, see, when they speak like paramagnetism, diamagnetism, means you should assume that, okay, the sample has been kept in the external magnetic field. Fine, right? So unpaired electrons, right? Is it so? Let us see all the options. Electrons excess and spin motion of electrons, paired electrons and orbital motion of electrons, electrons and orbital motion of electrons. Okay, see here, magnetic moment, there are two types at the atomic level, that is due to orbital magnetic moment, we'll say, and spin magnetic moment. Fine, right? So paired electrons, we will see it in which substance, that is in our diamagnetic materials, right? Now unpaired electrons, okay, is it due to only unpaired electrons? No. So here we have excess electrons, that means unpaired electrons and the spin motion of electrons, okay, both of them. Fine, so the best option among these four, okay, so that will be option 2. okay, so it can be due to orbital motion, that is due to you can have orbital magnetic moment as well as spin magnetic moment in case of paramagnetism. Okay, right? Now that is option 2 is right. Okay, 1 or 2 is option 2. Right, right, 1 or 2 is option 2. Right, now next one, the cause of diamagnetism is orbital motion of electrons, spin motion of electrons, paired electrons, none of the above. Okay, so you are keeping a diamagnetic substance in an external magnetic field. Now what happens there? You will observe that in the absence of external magnetic field, the net magnetic moment of an atom will be zero. Okay, because due to paired electrons and due to paired electrons, you have the net spin magnetic moment to be zero and net orbital magnetic moment to be zero. Right, now when you keep this diamagnetic material in the external magnetic field, you will notice that the magnetic field, right, so the orbital magnetic moment, okay, of the electrons which are in the direction of the external magnetic field, correct? So that is, so let me write 103. You know this, fine. So 103. So this will be external magnetic field, right? Now you have two electrons which are, these are the two revolving electrons, let us say. Fine. So once you keep it in the external magnetic field, the magnetic moment of this electron, right? The magnetic moment of this electron, it will increase, and the magnetic moment of this electron will decrease. Right. So therefore, you will see a net magnetic moment in the direction opposite to that of the external magnetic field. Fine. So we know this story, right? Okay. So it is due to orbital motion of electrons. Okay. Right. Now the rest all is good, I hope. Fine. So just recall from your notes once. You can solve this. Fine. Okay. Right, just one more, 131. Okay, just go through your material once. So ferromagnetic substance contain empty subshell, partially empty subshell, fully filled subshell, none of this. So which is true? Ferromagnetic substance. I think you should know about this. So even in class 12, I think you will study about these magnetic properties again. So you will learn that ferromagnetic materials, right? So they have this partially empty subshell. Okay, so partially filled, partially empty. All right. So because of that, you are able to see this. That is, they act like a strong magnets when you keep it in the external magnetic field. Fine. Okay. Right. So let us wind up here. So when you are solving, right, so please solve the next set of exercises also, that is previous exercise 3 and exercise 2 and analytical questions exercise 3, and first solve everything completely from this material, then you can switch over to other material. Fine. So if you have doubts, please take a snap and you can WhatsApp. All right. Fine. Okay. See you in the next class. We'll start EMI in the next class.